Hey everyone, welcome to Still Moments with Jesus, and today I'm your host Brian Samuel Opati, and I'm so glad to have you here. To those of you watching from the US, this is Still Moments with Jesus, and happy and blessed Thanksgiving to you and your family. Uh, well, join us in today as we look at the book of Joshua, Joshua 1 from verses 1 to 9, and it reads. Now it happened after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, that the Lord spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' servant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise to take his place, cross over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land which I am giving to them, to the sons of Israel, or children of Israel. I have given you every place on which the sole of your foot treads, just as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness of Arabia in the south, and this Lebanon in the north, even as far as the great river, the river Euphrates in the east, all the land of the Hittites, Canaan, and as far as the great Mediterranean Sea towards west shall be your territory. It is very expansive land. No man will be able to stand before you to oppose you as long as you live. Just as I was present with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you or abandon you. Be strong and confident and courageous, for you will give this people as an inheritance the land which I swore to their ancestors to give them. Only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do everything in accordance with the entire law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, so that you may prosper and be successful wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall read and meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything in accordance with all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you'll be successful. Have I not commanded you? Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified or dismayed or intimidated, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I remember hearing this very first chapter of the book of Joshua read out to me in Sunday school growing up, and thinking, that is a very fascinating way to start a book. And I don't know about you, but a lot of Joshua has to do with new beginnings. We've just come out of the first 5 books, from Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And now we're suddenly going down to business. This is where things get real. Because everything else is named after something. Genesis is the beginnings, book of beginnings. Exodus is the book of the Exodus from Egypt. Leviticus is the book of the law of the priests and other laws that the Israelites had to observe, both ritual and civil laws. Deuteronomy is a recounting. Numbers, is the story of the wilderness. In Hebrew, it's known as Bar Midbar. So this is the story of the wilderness, when the Israelites were in the wilderness. It's where we get the serpent story, and where the serpents were bit and had to look up to this bronze snake on a pole to get healed. And then we have Deuteronomy, which is a recounting of the second law, which Deuteronomy literally means second law. And then now we have the name of a person, the very first name named in the book, just after Deuteronomy, and we get to Joshua. Now, the Israelites are about to embark on something completely new in the new lands. Some of you may have heard these stories, some of you may be less familiar with these stories, but bear with me for a bit as we look into this just a little bit. Because Joshua offers us quite a bit Joshua's calling offers us something that we do not often see or sometimes take for granted. And it's the idea that Joshua is not doing this on his own, with his own strength, out of his own effort, out of his own initiative, but as an act of service, because he's a leader, out of duty, and out of his standing with God. Now, I want you to pay close attention to what's going on here in the first 9 verses of Joshua. Because the key, the secret to not only Joshua's success as a leader, but the success of the nation was going to lie in verse 8. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall read it and meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything in accordance with all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will be successful. Who wouldn't want to make it in life? And what that looks like is going to be very different for very different people. I'm not talking about money, I'm not talking about wealth, I'm not talking about riches or possessions. I'm talking about the success, the degree and extent of success, the joy that comes with it, the peace of mind that comes with it, the wisdom, insight, intellect that comes with being able to embark on these ventures. That's what we're talking about here. For you see, Joshua starts off, the book of Joshua that is, starts off on a leadership note. And it has to do with how we read and meditate, reflect, pause, have these still moments with God. And that's part of the reason why we made this channel. How can we help people, and ourselves too, as a couple, truly attain their peak and most possible selves? How can they get to be and attain the best selves and best life possible as they come to walk with God and love Him and just appreciate Him and just acknowledge Him in everything? And that's something we learn in Joshua. But here's the thing. I think you may have noticed something interesting with Joshua as well, as it is the same case with us. And with us, I mean even you watching. Yes, you watching. Joshua is not having a conversation with Moses in this chapter. God is speaking to Joshua himself. And as you know, Joshua comes right after Moses passes away. He is his successor. It's very interesting that the baton is carried not from Moses to Joshua, but from God to Moses and God to Joshua. There's a level of stewardship. And that means there's the caring of the duty and responsibilities and duties that God bestows on us. And respect for our own individuality without elevating one above the other that God has. For He's no respecter of persons, the text will tell us. So if He's doing something, He's going to do it directly. So what is the Lord speaking to you as you hear this particular sermon today? That's a reflective point I have for you, dear listener. For what God says is interesting. He starts off by saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise to take his place. Cross over this Jordan, you and all these people, into the land which I am giving to them, to the children of Israel. And I have given you every place on which the sole of your foot treads, just as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness of Arabia in the south, and to Lebanon in the north, and as far as the great river, the river Euphrates in the east, and the land of the Hittites of Canaan, and as far as the great Mediterranean Sea towards the west, shall be your territory, and no one shall be able to oppose you. And then he asks of Joshua, be strong and very courageous. Yeah, sure, God, it's easy for you to say, is what Joshua is probably thinking. But who knows? Because what he's being asked to do. If you look at the Canaanite kingdom, if you looked at how these ancient civilizations were set up in the Mediterranean, in and around the Mediterranean, and in and around. Sorry, I keep forgetting the name. I keep forgetting the name right now, but within the Middle East. So if you look at the ancient Near East, particular, and around that area, and you look at how it was set up and the kingdoms that set up themselves up there, what Joshua is being asked to do at this particular time period is actually to go up to these nations and say, essentially, you guys are not the right landowners here. You guys have got to move. I'm going to have to stand up against you guys. So in the same way Moses had to stand up to Pharaoh, now Joshua has to stand up before so many other kings. And God tells him, you'll do great, buddy. You're going to make it. And Joshua's probably feeling, no. And so a very interesting thing about the text is whenever you see something said twice, you have to pay attention to it. So not only does God say, be strong and very courageous in verse 7, he says it again in verse 9. But this time he adds a small thing, a small bit there. He says, have I not commanded you? I'm reading from the Amplified Translation, the new one. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous, and do not be terrified or dismayed or intimidated, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. It's very interesting that's what he wants to leave Joshua with. Because these are the last words of God before Joshua starts getting down to business. Be strong and very courageous. Do not be intimidated. Do not be dismayed. Do not lose heart. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Think about how symbolic that was, because they're still carrying the Ark of the Covenant. And symbolically because of what words God has just left him to keep in here and in here. And I don't know how many of you can resonate with this right now, especially as we try and think about how we're going to restructure ourselves as society and as the world right now is having to rethink what the future is going to look like. We've seen all manner of technological innovations come up. We've seen all manner of solutions politically, socially, industrially, and so on and so forth. We could name a list of them. But at the same time, there's something I want us to keep in mind. What is it that God has? Or better yet, as I title this, what is God's idea of a new tomorrow? What is God's idea of your tomorrow? For as you can see, as God is indeed careful and concerned about the people that Joshua has to take care of and lead, he's also caring for Joshua himself and says, hey, I'm with you. Don't panic. That desire that you have in your heart to do some things in the world, I gave you that. The desire to lead, the skills to do so, the knowledge, the intellect, the wisdom, the insight, I gave you that. And even better yet, I have given you my word. Trust me. I am leading you through this. You are not alone. And it's very fascinating that God would know that Joshua is likely to get disheartened, that Joshua is likely to get terrified, because the world seems so big at times and we feel so insignificant. I've heard some people say, nothing scares me. Whatever happens, even especially like in school, right? So being in a junior high or in high school, and you just realize the bully's coming up to you. You hear about a bully trying to pick on you, or someone having your name down somewhere and they really want to come after you, and then you realize, hey, that doesn't sound too big. It doesn't sound too that. Until you meet the person, and that's when you start trembling and saying, oh God, I can't do this. It's such human nature. And God can see that. God can see when you're actually trembling. And it's not a sin. It's not a sin. It's not a crime. It's not something you're doing that's against God. But I just want you to know, as you listen to this, as you hear my voice today, that God is with you. you taking the journey to actually spend time with us also here in Still Moments with Jesus is a beautiful way of just meditating and just reflecting on the text. And the goal of the text is that as we read more and more of this, is that we should be able to realize that the text is also reading more and more of us and who we are, where we are at, what we desire, our dreams, our hopes, our future. Even as we contemplate about the eternal questions of, will I go to heaven? Will I not? Will I? But we have to get to a place where we let the text begin to read us. And that is what I'm inviting you to today as you read someone like Joshua. So I hope you'll be blessed as you think about this during this Thanksgiving, and that you'll find a reason to give thanks to God for standing with you and walking with you as you try and learn and wrestle and struggle and find your way in Him. You're blessed, and have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving to you and your family.